And then you do it out there again somewhere. Remember, it's a 550.
Then if that don't work, you get rid of the round body carburetor and do it. Yep.
Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Last week we were finishing up the engine overhaul on the 550. We're going to pick back up where we left off, and hopefully we'll be test driving this thing here pretty quick. Okay guys, we're back. We got the pistons installed. I bored the cylinders, I honed the cylinders, but I wanted to go over a few things with you guys because most of rural America, you're going to be lucky enough to find a automotive machine shop that are going to bore your cylinders. When they do that, chances are they're not going to chamfer your ports, and I'm going to show you what that is here in a minute. You really shouldn't expect that of an automotive shop because they're not going to be as specialties in two-strokes. And I've even seen two-stroke shops not chamfer the cylinders because everybody has their own fingerprint on how they want it done. Know that you need to do that, and we're going to walk you guys through it real quick. If you look down the cylinders, you'll see these ports. What I've done is I've taken a semi-profiled, like a radiused file here, and all I'm doing is I'm just slightly going across the ports here. And we're going to do that on all of them, top and bottom. Because what happens is when they bore the cylinder, this creates a knife edge here. And that knife edge over there, when you're running the piston up and down in the cylinder, when it exposes to that void, that port, the ring comes out. And when the ring comes out and it's going to slam shut, that knife edge is going to slowly shave the rings away. And that'll very drastically reduce your ring life. So it's very important that you do that to all those ports in there. Another thing I wanted to cover with the cylinder while it was out, this intake manifold, see how deep these bosses run for the bolts? This is a 60-40 scenario, so this is 60% showing. On the inside of the manifold, you have another 30% of these runners. According to the Jet Ski Bible, this manifold here, when air gets trapped in here, when it hits those bosses, it packs air. And what you do is you take this steel putty and you put it in here and lay it down here on the floor and you raise it up. You create a little shelf in there. That increases the flow of the intake manifold 30%. Now that's dramatic, so we want to do that on every one of these we build. We change the shape of the intake manifold to get that 30% better flow, because that translates directly to top speed and how hard it hits off the bottom. I've taken the die grinder and I've ground to the bosses there. And you notice I've done a pretty good sized area. The key to that is you want it bigger than this port here. That way, if something would ever happen and that was to break loose, it doesn't go into the engine. What it'll do is it'll flop around in here and it'll shut the engine off. And that's what we want. Now we got the cylinders on here. I wanted to show you guys, this is what I was referring to earlier. Okay, see how tight that is? This is 6 thousandths. Well, before we took the motor apart, we determined that it was 11 thousandths, and that really meant nothing. There was no frame of reference. These are 3.5 to 4 thousandths clearance. That means there's 2 to 2.5 thousandths of piston taper. Okay, we're measuring at the top. You're always supposed to measure a piston at the bottom, which is fine, as long as you understand where we're going with this, right? Before we took the motor apart, this clearance was 11 thousandths. Now it's 6. Okay, that's 5 thousandths of wear. If you were to look at the overall picture and say, okay, it's probably 9 thousandths. This was 9 thousandths clearance, piston cylinder wall, right? If you were to look in the factory service manual, it'll tell you that 8 thousandths is the wear limit on these motors. So the motor was the motor was beyond worn out, even though it probably still ran all the way up until the time it got to 9 thousandths. That's what I wanted to show you guys. It's easier to tell with feeler gauges. Once you've done several of these motors, you'll start understanding how the piston's tapered And when you actually get to the 650s and the 750s, you'll actually see these clearances go to 14, 15 thousandths and the motor is still running. And the reason why is because it has reeds. It has reed cages. These motors stop running a lot earlier on than the reed motors do. Even though by definition the reed motor is still worn out at 9 thousandths as well. But they'll run clear up to 12, 13 thousandths of clearance before they start, they'll start acting weird. Another fine product from JB Weld. It's called Steel Stick. We got a tongue depressor here with some tape on it. We're going to use that to flatten out that stuff there. And as you can see, it starts to change color as we get farther along in here. Yes, and it smells foul when it activates. As you can see, it gets to be one uniform color. That's just like that. It took just less than half of this steel stick here. There's half of that left over, and we're good to go. We'll see if that yields the results we need. So, referencing the Jet Ski Bible again, it talks about these carburetors and how to make them work effectively. We already went through the fact that the stock flame arrestor is way more restrictive. They replaced it with an air filter, so it remains restrictive. But we're going to take away the restriction, and we're going to fix that so we can run a regular flame arrestor. The Jet Ski Bible tells us to drill this out to 50 thousandths. We've done that already. And it also says that by increasing the fuel flow there, we need to increase the fuel flow here. So we're going to change the needle and seat. We're going to leave the spring the same. We have a custom 10mm socket that we made just for this purpose. So these come from the factory with a 2.0 needle and seat in them. And we're going to change it out to a 2.8. To do it the hard way. The spring stayed in there, which is positive. This goes back in there. This is a 2.0. Okay. Of course, on eBay, I found an OEM or a Mikuni branded one. I'm not a big fan of using aftermarkets on this stuff. We've already drilled that hole out. We've changed that out. Now it also says that we want to fill this in. If any air leaks through here or fuel leaks in here, we'll change it. It will affect our carburation drastically. So we're going to take some JB Weld. Okay, that looks good. We'll let that dry. That looks good. We'll come back and reassemble the carb when that's dry. So, we got the motor together, got the carburetor together. We've modified the carburetor, we've modified the intake manifold. And the reason why we've done all that is because someone's obviously removed the stock flame arrestor and put this aftermarket flame arrestor adapter on it, so we have to modify the carburetor because the stock flame arrestor is very restrictive. And since we're not using it anymore, that's one of the reasons we modified the carburetor. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the spark plugs to the proper spark plugs, our NGK B7ES. Notice there's no R there. R is resistor. We don't want resistors in the circuit. So a straight B7ES, not an 8, because an 8 is too cold and you won't build heat in the motor and you won't make power. So we got all that done. I got the bed plate sandblasted and painted. It turned out really nice. Remember how crusty and rusty it was? And we got the hull all steam clean and nice. I noticed there's some wear here from where the fuel tank was rubbing. The rubber mat has come out at some point. We'll build something, some kind of a rubber mat here in place underneath. You can see where it's all been wearing. The fuel filler neck was not clamped on the front up there by the filler, so I fixed that. And then everything else, we've replaced the motor mounts. They're all in good shape now. And then we've removed the rev limiter, and we've replaced the rev limiter where the wiring goes into the box with this nice little aluminum block-off plate. Those are very handy. Those are the same ones we use on the 750s and the 800s as well. The restrictor jet that we put in the return line for the fuel, because we took the rev limiter out, the carburetor does not have a restriction for the return, so we put a Super B and Mikuni 80 main jet in the return line to restrict the fuel back to the tank. And also on the pisser, it was clogged because some critters had put some kind of a nest in here. So we blew all that out to make sure, blew all that free with the an air compressor blow gun. This is definitely a saltwater boat. We had to drill this bolt out, and it pulled this boss out. So what we're gonna have to do is we've pushed it all the way down in there again, and we're gonna have to build a little dam out of tape, and then we'll grease this bolt so it doesn't stick, and then we'll just epoxy all that in there, and that'll hold the electrical start-stop switch on from this point forward. The throttle bolt broke, and we were able to pry it out, knock it out with a punch, but it only electrolysis one side. So we'll put that in the vise and we'll unscrew that, and we'll be able to reuse this throttle, no problem. I wanted to show you guys what we used to do back in the olden days before aftermarket bars were very available. So we put this in the vise, right? We level it, and then I've already bent this side down, so you can already see how far up this was. We just take and put it in a vise. And bend it straight. That's all it took. And you have a nice, we would do that, we'd throw it in the vise, bend it, put them right back on and go riding. but we're not gonna do that because bars are readily available, they're cheap, and I have several of them laying up on the shelf. I just wanted to show you guys that because I thought that was cool. So we'll put a new set of bars on, grips, we'll put it all back together, and then we'll go to the water and test. Okay guys, we're bright and early here this morning. We got the ski all together. I've already put my hand over it and choked it. I haven't started it yet though. I wanted to do the final startup on here. Once it starts, I'm going to dump oil down the motor and get it nice and oily because I didn't over oil the motor when I was building it, so I want to make sure there's plenty of oil in it for braking. So let's see if this thing will start. trying to change the ground point on this thing, but it's kind of fighting me. Maybe the electrical box isn't grounding. It won't ground our spark plug. Alright guys, I guess we'll have to do some research on why our spark is not going to ground. What happened? I choked it way too much and flooded the engine. And it flooded to the point where holding it full throttle to clear it out didn't work. So I had to pull the plugs and wait a day for it to dry out and plug the fuel lines so no fuel was getting to the motor. Held it full throttle, changed plugs, cranked it over, changed plugs because they're wet, changed plugs again, hit the starter, hold full throttle, clear the plugs, start it, hit full throttle, eventually it cleared up. I let it run out of fuel, put the fuel system back up, and then it started right up and it ran good ever since. In fact, don't know if you can see that or not, but it does have just enough white smoke. It's doing pretty good. So it runs good. We'll take it down the water now and see if we can get some break-in done and some testing done and get some numbers.
Hold on.
Oh. All right. My name's Ricky. I live in Lake Havasu City. I'm a 550 jet ski novice. And we're at Body Beach in Lake Havasu City.
How long have you known Jimmy?
23 years.
23 years. 23
years.
Jimmy, you hear that?
Yep.
You have somebody that's known you 23 years.
Isn't that amazing?
So how'd you talk Ricky into coming and riding this ski?
All they gotta do is ask.
Yep, that's it.
He's good people.
That's it.
He's a good friend. Right, a friend is somebody who'll come bail you out of jail. A good friend's the one sitting next to you going, wasn't that awesome? Not bad for a stock boat, huh?
Crash and burn from slow steer.
X2 and 650. She's a pro.
Yeah.
She's not fond of these.
See what she says when she gets back with the 550.
She don't like 550s.
Hey, we were able to talk her into riding it though.
I have 10 of them. All registered and running.
That's more than I got running.
Jimmy.
Yes.
What do you got to say for yourself?
Hey, success.
He's one amazing
It runs.
ski. Yep. He's amazing.
Considering how long it's been since I built a 550, I'm actually a little impressed.
I'm impressed. It only took him, what, 2 hours to get the flywheel off?
Yeah, exactly.
2
Oh, that
hours.
was so funny.
2 hours to get the flywheel
That was
off.
so funny. Hollywood magic it took like, what, 7 minutes?
Jimmy forgot how to work on them.
You know, seriously.
A couple weeks ago,
Here she comes.
Clear the path.
She actually looks comfortable on it.
Yeah, looks like it's doing good.
she learned on a 300 SX.
She can ride anything then.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Awesome! Huh?
I need this ski.
Huh?
She's sold.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, it's nice.
You look comfortable on it.
It's all the other 550s. The balance is all wrong. This one works perfect.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe
Yeah.
that's where it'll have to go. Is
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe it adds to the collection.
It's
Yeah.
good, it's good.
It just needs a quick steer desperately.
I can't. The steering is too.
Yeah, I know. That's a stock 800 handlebars. Stock SXR 800 handlebars.
I love the 1990
It's not even
registration.
wobbly.
I know, I left it on there.
1990.
I had to leave it on
Body
there.
Beach is that good. It's just simply awesome out here.
No, it's that pump stuffer. I'm telling you, it changes the whole ski. People don't realize.
So you tune these on the trailer.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no. The first 2/3 of tuning is on the trailer. The last third is out on the water under load. And then if that doesn't work, then you do on the trailer some more, and then you do it out there again some more. Remember, it's a 550.
Then if that don't work, you get rid of the round body carburetor and do it. You
FBN.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's so awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
After
Final thoughts?
absolutely amazing. Pump stuffer, #1.
Time for the final deal here. We're going to do a quick GPS run. See how fast this thing goes. I got her up to full speed. I don't know what that means.
Gotta be 30. 36.
30. Oh, my rope ain't that long. 38.
Wow.
Darn!
But I pulled the rope, it fell out of my hand, I grabbed it and reset it. Oh, let me get 5 minutes of rest, maybe I'll do it again to show you guys. That's a record for me. Back from Body Beach, successful test ride, successful break-in, success at letting everybody ride it. Everybody was impressed, me included. I was really surprised how well this turned out. I know they turn out well when we do this stuff, but even then it still surprised me a little bit. We didn't bump the compression, we didn't mill the head, do any of that. I wanted to preserve as much as we could the original stock ski to see just what kind of results we could get, making it better, modernizing it. The intake manifold is flawed dramatically. We had to fix that. Carburetor was leaving a little bit to be desired, left a lot on the table. We had to fix that. Intake tract obviously flawed. We had to fix that. Everything else pretty much left the same. We just modernized. We just brought it up to spec. The impeller, knowing what I know now, I would have back pitched the impeller. It was a Scat Track 15 degree. I would have back pitched it to 14, and that would have let the motor rev freer. It's not revving out like I like to see. If I was to do that now, I'm sure we get 40 mile an hour. That'd be comfortable. That'd be an amazing speed for a 550 to ride all day long. It's reliable, do everything we need to do. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do next with it, but for now, hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.